Hey, everybody. Almost didn't make it before my intro ended because I was, again, trying to get things together at the last minute. Um, my Grubhub order, unfortunately, was a little bit late. And I'm probably going to have to step back there and take my insulin shot. For those of you that didn't know I was diabetic, yes, I am. And go back there and get that in a little bit. But I did want to be here, hopefully, when the intro ended and not be messing around back there doing something and leaving you guys hanging. Um, it looks like we might not have a whole lot of people in here tonight. I was hoping since I did a little bit later, maybe there would be more people. But I may have been pressing my luck as my last couple of streams did pretty well as far as the number of people we had in here. But maybe I'm starting to run out of steam, maybe a little bit. Sorry, this is a natural lemonade from Wendy's, which, hey, John, which I don't know. I'm thinking McAllister's is like a local place to Louisville, but I could be wrong. But they probably had the best fresh lemonade. But the Wendy's natural lemonade runs a close second. Uh, John, you say I just got Texas Roadhouse to go. LOL. Late dinner because I had a podcast recording for Renfield. Ah, interesting. Um, I love Texas Roadhouse, by the way. Usually, though, I like to make Steve take me to Texas Roadhouse. Renfield, I actually watched the majority of that recently with Steve, and yeah, it was pretty decent. I guess not exactly what I was expecting though, but a lot of times that's not a bad thing because I guess I was expecting it to be all comedic, and there were some darker parts of that movie, I thought. But yeah, a decent movie nonetheless. Hey, Texas. Johnny said, my lazy ass drives up to curbside. And Becca and I go, we sit down. Yeah, but if it's me, I'm curbside. Yeah, and Steve would either, if it was just him, and I, either wasn't with him or whatever, he either would, one of two things would happen. And nowadays, it'd be more likely he'd just come home and eat whatever was around here. He wouldn't even like want to wait to the drive through or pick it up curbside or whatever. He just what he'd really like to do is come home every day and have me have something for him. But most of the time I try to do that, but some days I'm just like wiped out or whatever. And the older I get, some days I don't feel so hot and don't just can't do it. So yeah, but really that's not being lazy, John, because at least you're going there and getting it. You say, yeah, Nick Cage is kind of scary in it unexpectedly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what I would say too. I guess based on the trailers and stuff like that, I was just expecting it to be. I wasn't expecting it to be like a stupid, silly, funny movie. I was expecting it just to be more comedic than it actually turned out to be. But it was actually a nice surprise that it did have a few of those darker elements in it. Um, well, now we jumped up to 8. So what I'm going to do, and hopefully I won't lose all 8 of you in here, is I am going to go and take my insulin shot real quick and grab my $5, or in this case, this was a $6 biggie bag from Wendy's. I also got chili too because I might eat the chili tomorrow. But that chili was freaking hot. It almost burned the hell out of my hand. It was like burning my hand through the bag. I was like, damn, this is some hot chili here. Okay, so I will be right back, guys. TJ, I love it. Uh, you say, Dana, you should just do a channel where you just eat stuff. I don't know. I think that would probably bore people to tears, actually. But I will say, with my $6 biggie bag, I got these spicy nuggets, and woo wee, they're heavy on the spice. I mean, I like spicy stuff, but it's getting close to being almost too spicy. Um, but anyway, doesn't matter really. So as I'm getting all my food out here. So, as I'm eating some of this stuff and drinking my lemonade, and I also got a medium frosty with this too. But it's amazing how small those medium frosties are. Um, Actually, I do Grubhub a lot, John. Occasionally, I do DoorDash. I have done Uber Eats, but I haven't done Uber Eats for a little while. What about let's see, have you done Postmates? That's another one too. Or it's one we have around here. But and through Grubhub, I have like Grubhub Plus or whatever right now, and so I get free delivery and all that good stuff if I spend at least $12, which that ain't hard really, considering they upsell this stuff like crazy. You say so. Postmates is huge in California. I've never done it here. Now, I used to do Postmates quite a bit. Like I said, I haven't done it in a long time, but I used to use it because they were basically the only place that would deliver Long John Silvers. And I get cravings for Long John Silvers sometimes. And a damn fly is flying around here again. The flies aren't too bad, but they just, and they're not swarming or anything like that. It's just one or two of them will get back here at my desk. This is like unbelievable. Every day, and I does this thing every day. I do not know where these guys are coming from. They're little tiny spiders that keep building webs on my light up there, above my computer monitor. And they just started doing it. And I'll see, like, I'll be doing these streams and I'll see two or three of them like drop out of the on these webs. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I don't like spiders, period, but the little ones don't bother me nearly as much. Yeah, and then, oh, of course, that's the thing about Wendy's, though, sometimes, guys, I don't know how many of y'all ever get Wendy's or get Wendy's to go, but a lot of times these burgers, they'll be sliding almost off the bun and there's ketchup all over the outside and everything. I guess beggars can't be choosers, right? Um, but anyway. Texas, you say I got 2 years of no delivery fees from Grubhub through Amazon Prime. That's cool. I want to kill this damn fruit fly that is flying around here and it's driving me nuts. But truly, I felt sorry for the girl that brought me my food today or this evening, because she texted me being nice, because there was a delay. And she said she didn't mean to hit I guess, the button that said that she had the order and she was on her way. And she said she had been in the drive-through the whole time. And I was like, I'm so sorry they're making you wait. And she was like, oh no, it's not your fault. But I did feel bad for her. That's a good point, TJ. I think some of the problem comes from, uh, unfortunately, my guinea pigs. Um, because we never had fruit flies. Like, occasionally we'd see one or two. And then after I got guinea pigs, and I try to clean their enclosure relatively often, but it seemed like the longer I had the guinea pigs, these damn things sprouted out and they got really bad at one time. Now they're just kind of annoying here and there. Like I said, there might be one or two that's going around the my light here and probably trying to get to the ketchup on this burger. But yeah, you bring up a good point, TJ, that probably we should. I would imagine, Steve wonders why our electric and our air conditioning bill is very expensive sometimes, and that's probably why. And also, we've got, I've talked about this before. We've got this back room that was built onto the house. This house would be like super, super small if it didn't have the back room. But the people that own the house that built on this room or had it built on, before Steve ever moved in here, um, they took a lot of shortcuts, probably to make it cheaper, because our ceiling It's a good thing you guys can't see our ceiling because there's stains on it. And you know how the ceilings used to look in old office buildings? That's exactly what this ceiling looks like. It's also got holes in it up that way, and it's just a mess. John, you say you talking about the flies reminds me of Creep Show. LOL. Not that it's that bad, but just that segment. Well, actually, I'm going to be talking a little bit about Creep Show tonight because that's a good segue. Because I'm going to be talking about deadly dads tonight, um, in honor of the impending Father's Day holiday. And I'm actually going to go see my dad, not on Father's Day, but I'm going to see him Saturday. Um, yeah, we've actually got some good spray that like kills them on contact. But I still think that there's another source other than the guinea pigs that's causing them because, like I said, I keep the enclosure relatively clean. When I first got the guinea pigs, we didn't have this problem. So I think it might be a combination of things, but we do have some new kind of spray that's supposed to be for fruit flies and gnats and even for roaches and stuff like that. You said the 4K of Creepshow just came out, TJ. I've got that pre-ordered actually, so I'm excited about getting that. But anyway, now we got 10 people in here. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do. I forgot. Everybody's gonna get so tired of me posting these invites in here because you're gonna say, "Damn it, Dana, we don't want to be on there." But I'm gonna post it anyway in case somebody wants to come in. John, you say I want to get that one. I have the Warner Blu-ray and the Michael Felcher one just desserts. I do too. I do too, John. But I also have um, the Scream Factory Blu-ray as well. John, you said the Warner one is super cheap. I wonder how the 4K looks. You'll have to review it, Dana. I certainly will, John. And y'all don't let me forget to do that too. Thank you, TJ. You say, by the way, watched your stream from last night this morning. Nice. You got a newbie on. I did. Good old John Grande. First time on one of my streams. And I'm invited to come on one of his. So he's going to try to schedule me on one of his upcoming. I believe he usually does his on Thursdays. But, you know, me, I do one just about every night. So, before we get into the deadly dads and talk about a few movies here, again, I'm going to go over upcoming watch alongs and my final drive in movie night for a while. Oh, by the way, speaking of the last drive in, did anybody get a Fright Rags notification that said they're going to have drive in O shirts tomorrow at 10 a.m.? They're going to have those suckers for sale. And I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to get me one tomorrow, I think. So, since Joe, Bob, and Darcy are getting ready to come back on, my final drive-in movie night for a while, so they go on hiatus and or vacation again. It's going to be Cannibal Night here on Deadites on Deck, and we're going to be watching Cannibal Ferox and Cannibal Holocaust. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm going to try to be as animal cruelty free as I can here in the Benningfield household, but you guys are welcome to watch it any way you want to. So, watch alongs coming up June 17th, which is this Saturday, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. By the way, the drive-in movie night will start at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as well. In honor of the impending Father's Day holiday, just like tonight's stream is, will be the original Stepfather starring Terry O'Quinn. June 18th will be the John Cusack joint, High Fidelity. June 24th will be Just Before Dawn, followed on June 25th by the hilarious Caddyshack. July 1st will be the original Town That Dreaded Sundown. July 2nd will be Slumber Party Massacre 2. This was a TJ suggestion. July 8th will be Superstition, which is, again, is a movie that not too many people talk about. And July 9th will be Summer School. So we got a lot of, or I think there are going to be some fun watch-alongs coming up. And I hope some of you will join me on some of these. If not, I'll go ahead and do them myself. But it's always a lot more fun to have somebody on here with me. Okay. John, you say, I got the German 4K of Phantasm. It looks crisp. But do you notice how the 4K colors are not as vibrant as Blu-ray? Not always, but often. Sometimes I've noticed that, John, actually, that it seems a little dull. TJ, you say Joe Bob is hosting the last drive-in The Walking Dead Dead City on Shudder Sunday. Oh, I think I saw something about that. I may have to check that out. Okay, so I'm gonna get this put away, and there's only one movie that I'm going to talk about tonight that I don't actually have a visual for. I do apologize for that. The other one, I didn't have a Blu-ray, or I don't even think there's a 4K, but I don't have the Blu-ray of it, so I pulled out my DVD when I went back there to do something else. So let's go ahead and we'll get started talking about these movies. And Dirt, bless his heart, this first movie I'm going to talk about, I think it's his all-time favorite movie, and he's going to be disappointed he missed this. But I'm going to say this is last call, but anybody can join at any time, just like Joe Bob says, anybody can die at any moment. So, at any point in time, if anybody wants to join in live on the stream, feel free to click on the link, come backstage. I will add you. If you need me to repost the link, if it gets lost in the chat, just let me know. And I will be glad to do so. All right, so let's go ahead. And I'm going to try to finish up my burger here as I'm talking about these movies. Steve said he checked out the beginning of my stream, like a few minutes of my stream last night. And He said, "Yeah, I saw you eating chips and salsa." Actually, it was chips and marinara, but whatever. So, the first movie I want to talk about, and the first Deadly Dad, and you guys may have saw a little snippet of the case as I moved it over. It was Jack Torrance in The Shining. So, you could look at this two ways. Um, and I know almost everybody says, and I said it too. But I also said last night when John and I were talking that I always loved this movie, but I recognize that this is not King's version of The Shining. This is Kubrick's version of The Shining. But that doesn't make it any less of a great horror film. I feel bad that Stephen King didn't like it and he wasn't able to embrace it and all that. But I tend to, because I like this one so well, I tend to just think of it as just a horror film and not a Stephen King adaptation so much. So, but what I was going to say, even though a lot of people say that Jack Nicholson looks crazy from scene one in this, and that there's really no progression from a loving father who's an alcoholic or was an alcoholic and is trying to get clean, and who really loves his wife and son, but he's dealing with all these personal demons and stuff. And I can see that, but Jack Nicholson, when things really kick into high gear, he pulls out all the stops. And I don't think it goes over the top. I think it's just under the wire of going over the top. And I always enjoyed watching Jack Nicholson in this movie because he, regardless of if you think there's no progression to total insanity or not within the film, Jack Torrance is still, or Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance is still an incredible actor. There is no denying that. And again, he plays this to the hilt. So again, you could look at it two ways. That he's a loving father that goes bad. Okay? And he goes bad. Why? Because he goes to this hotel that's haunted, and he makes a mistake of taking the job as the caretaker there. He, his wife, and his young son Danny get snowed in for the entire winter, and he loses his freaking mind. And by the end of it, he's chasing his family members around with an axe. And so I appreciated the fact that, here's the thing, when you're reading a book, like when I was reading The Shining, and Jack Torrance was running around with a croquet mallet and chasing chasing Danny and chasing Wendy, his wife, and all that. That was terrifying reading it. But kudos to Kubrick for changing the weapon of choice to an axe. Because when it's cinematic, I think it's a lot better to use something more visceral. And in this case, he uses an axe as opposed to a croquet mallet. Okay? And there's a lot of little bits and pieces here and there that I really enjoy. But I also love Stephen King's book. And like I said, the thing with the hedge animals, the thing with the croquet mallet being used as a weapon, the things that were different in King's book versus Kubrick's version of The Shining. And this truly is. I mean, it says above the title, it says Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Okay? It doesn't say Stephen King's The Shining. It doesn't say anybody's The Shining except Stanley Kubrick. Of course, you got to give Stephen King credit because he did write the novel, and he does get credit. And again, I'm sorry that Stephen King never liked this version of The Shining. But hey, he's entitled to his own opinion. He was a writer of the original work. So I totally respect his opinion, even though I disagree that The Shining, when he says The Shining's not a good film. So, let's read some of these. Let's read what John says here. John, you say, well, let me just say it. That TV version with the guy from Wings is boring as crap. The Kubrick version is the best to me. I will agree that Kubrick's version is the best, John. However, I was able to get some sort of enjoyment out of the TV version. And not because of that kid. That kid that played Danny in that kid was super annoying. I did want somebody to kill him. But because he screamed and cried like a baby all the time. And so, yeah. But having Rebecca De Mornay play Wendy, I'm not saying Shelley Duvall did not do a good job in Kubrick's version of The Shining. But here's the thing. If you read, and sometimes I am a purist when it comes to Stephen King adaptations. At certain points in times, I'm a purist. And Shelley Duvall's version of Wendy did not in any way, shape, or form match Stephen King's version of Wendy because she was described as super attractive. And I'm not saying Shelley Duvall's ugly. I'm not saying that at all. Shelley Duvall just looks kind of odd, just odd looking. Okay. So Rebecca De Mornay, with her blonde hair, sexy figure, all of that stuff, even at that point in time, was very similar to Wendy in The Shining. It's how she was described as being attractive, being blonde, all that stuff. So there were things that I appreciated about the TV version. Was it perfect? No. Was Kubrick's version of The Shining better made? Yes. I am not going to lie to you there. I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass about it. Most of us pretty much know when you compare the Kubrick's version of The Shining versus the TV version of The Shining, there's really no comparison, right? So, although there were things that Kubrick got wrong in some sense of the word, but I don't think Kubrick cared anyway. He was making his own movie. But as much as Kubrick's version of The Shining got some things wrong, I think it got a lot of things right. And it worked. It works as a horror film. It hits all the bases. It does what it's supposed to do. And then it just lets you go, right? So the miniseries version, although the characters, with the exception of the little boy, were better in reference to the book. is what I'm talking about. Um, I'm not saying that Steven Weber blew Jack Nicholson's performance out of the water. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying Steven Weber did good with the material. Okay. And Rebecca De Mornay did good with the material. They should have got another kid to play Danny, yeah. Because, like I said, that kid was super damn annoying. But, you know, what movie maker doesn't make a few mistakes along the way, right? John, you say it's like the TV show The Last of Us. It's a great show, but if you compare it to the video game, it's a different thing. Exactly. You say, to be fair, I've never read the book, so my view is the films only. I can see why people would be picky about it. Yeah, sometimes, and I'm not saying you're wrong for not reading the book, John, or maybe not having the time to read it. Um, but yeah, I tend to be like super picky, and a lot of times we'll pick apart a movie because it doesn't follow the book well. I mean, I love the Stand miniseries, the original one, but I still found areas where it deviated away from the book quite a bit. And two, I had just finished reading the book, the uncut version of Stand, right before the miniseries came on. So yeah, it was all fresh in my mind, and yeah, I was super picky and super anal about it. So, guys, I'm going to try to finish this burger, so I'm not eating this burger and making such a damn mess. I mean, the top, the top part of the bun came off because it was just so saturated with stuff. So, I didn't see Deadpool was doing anything tonight, but I can't remember if on Pit at Night, if they said anything that they were doing today special. Um, because I haven't seen Uncle Bill or CK in here. I'm not saying they got to be in every damn stream I do. It's just they do come to a lot of them. That was a lot messier than I thought it was going to be. TJ, you say, why did Wendy didn't leave Jack in Kubrick's film? ASAP wasn't logical. In that sense, she was trapped before they even got to the hotel. That was why I felt, regardless of the book version. Interesting. That does bring up a good question too, TJ, because I guess that was something I never really thought of, but it really brings up a lot of different things. So, like, heck, why didn't she leave him? Of course, if she'd left him, there wouldn't have been a book, and there wouldn't have been any movies or anything like that. Um, but I'm guessing it was one of those things where, and this is totally my opinion. But you know how you hear a lot of women that have been abused say that they either one felt trapped in the relationship near the beginning of the relationship, They didn't know how to get out of it. They didn't know where to go, what to do, um, and really felt like it was easier just to stay, even though they were being abused, than to try to strike out on their own. So I guess in that way, it's realistic. But yeah, I can understand people asking questions. John, you say, yeah, I'm not sure how the book played it out, but I feel like The Shining is basically Jack is already abusive and Wendy it's just got Stockholm almost. Yeah, exactly. John, you say, I take The Shining now as a straightforward film where he loses it. I think you take out maybe two to three small things and it's not even supernatural. Exactly. TJ, you say, yeah, from the beginning of the movie, Wendy is making excuses for Jack's behavior. She does do that quite a bit. John, you say, just my take now at 38. I didn't think that at 14 when I first saw it, I thought it was a ghost story then. Yeah, it's funny how, you know, our how we feel about a movie or what we see in a movie will change as we get older. All right. So you guys can keep talking about The Shining. Hey, you can talk about anything you want in the chat. But hopefully, so I don't stay on here another 3 or 4 hours. I'm going to move this along to the next film. And guys, by the way, these are in no particular order. They were just how I pulled them off the shelf from a list that I have. But the next one is The Stepfather starring Terry O'Quinn. And, something I wanted to bring up. My head's burning up. Sorry, guys. The hat's going to have to come off here. Um, I'm sad that Terry O'Quinn never wants to talk, or I mean, maybe it's not that he doesn't want to, but I have never heard him talk about this movie. Have you guys heard him ever talk about this, like Stepfather 1 and 2? Because I don't recall ever hearing him. And, there's audio commentary on this Blu ray with the director, Joseph Rubin, but there has never been any commentary that I've seen that Terry O'Quinn's been on. No interviews done with him about this movie. So, I mean, is he ashamed of the movie, I wonder? Or I don't think it's plausible that the people that put out these Blu-rays wouldn't have asked. But TJ, you say, oh, by the way, people last night were saying Zombie was written before Dawn of the Dead. Dawn was written in 77. Zombie didn't start production until June of 1979. Thank you for that information, TJ. I think they finally decided that, yeah, that was the way it went. I think, was it Dirk and Darren that were kind of going back and forth there for a little bit? John, you say, absolutely. Our brain chemistry changes and we grow so much we perceive everything differently later. Hey, Dirk, were your ears burning? Because I just mentioned you. um, so this is The Stepfather is a movie that I have always loved. I think Terry O'Quinn hit the nail on the head playing Jerry Blake in this. Um, plus a couple of other characters because or people because what this guy does is he marries into a family. I mean, I'm guessing he killed his original family too, but then he will change his appearance, change his name, etc., and move on to another family. And if they're not perfect, he gets rid of them as well. So some people might think, that's implausible. That would never happen. Well, this movie is loosely, keep in mind, loosely based on the John List case of a guy, John List, who got up to his eyeballs in bills and was unable to keep up. His wife wanted to live in a great big luxurious house. He couldn't really pay for it. His kids were all getting to be teenagers. They were starting to be rebellious. And somewhere along the line, he snapped. And methodically, his mother was living with them. She was staying up in the attic. He went up to the attic. He shot his mother and killed her. He killed his wife. And he went to pick up the kids from school. And as they one at a time came into the house, he shot them and killed them too. And then he laid all the bodies of his dead family members in the big, like, dining room, I think. And methodically, again, cleaned himself up of blood and all that. He had already, so he'd been planning this for a while. He planned to stop the newspapers and all that. He quit his job, and he quit his job weeks before he killed his family. And he had just been getting up every day and dressing in his work clothes, his suit and tie and stuff, and acting as if he was going to work. So he completely changed his appearance. And he was on the run for 15 years. 15 years. And it wasn't until America's Most Wanted, the John Walsh show, um, had a show on John List that a neighbor recognized her neighbor as being John List because they had, did one of those age progression things that show what he would have looked like 15 years later. They show what he looked like when he killed his family and left, and they aged it and said, okay, this is about approximately what he'll look like now. So again, the stepfather was loosely based on that case. Okay. Um, and again, Terry O'Quinn, I mean, I could almost really believe that he was this evil, crazy guy who kind of hid behind a squeaky clean image, pretty much. And for a long time, he has his current wife fooled. So I want to talk about the beginning scene, though. I want to back it up a little bit. I want to talk about the beginning scene where we see Terry O'Quinn's character, who appears to be spattered in blood. If this was your first time watching, you wouldn't, unless you were really paying attention to the back of the VHS box or whatever. So he's covered, he's got blood spatters all over his glasses and everything. And we see him taking all his clothes off, getting into the shower, getting out, cutting his hair, taking the glasses off, putting contacts in, shaving his beard off, and voila, it's Terry O'Quinn. Okay? And so he travels a long way, takes um, another person's identity. Essentially, he looks in the obituaries for guys that have died and will take whatever name strikes his fancy, pretty much. And so he marries into a a family, Susan and Stephanie, and he marries Susan. And Susan's husband, her first husband, had passed away. He was sick and he died. It may have been cancer. I can't really recall at this point. And Stephanie is played by Jill Schoen. And this is also a great role for Jill Schoen, I think. Um, and the thing about Stephanie is she never trusts Jerry. She sees something in Jerry that's not quite right. And this movie, in tone, is very similar to another movie called Scream for Help. I think that's what the title is. And I haven't seen Scream for Help for a long time. And I prefer this film, actually. But I do see similarities between the two. Okay. So I won't, I'm not going to dissect this entire movie, but I will say that beginning scene, like, really gave me cold chills because after Terry O'Quinn is like taking the shower, cleaned all the blood off, you know, put his bloody clothes and stuff into a suitcase, which he ends up throwing off of a ferry um, when nobody's looking. He goes downstairs and you see a teddy bear, you see a small child stretched out. This stuff looks all realistic. It almost looks too realistic. I know it wasn't real. You see a streak of blood on the wall as he's coming down the stairs. It looks as if maybe he was trying to drag somebody away and that was their last ditch effort to get away, and they were in the process of dying or whatever. Um, but yeah, really creepy scene. If you have not seen The Stepfather, I urge you to, like, don't go out and spend money on it, like I always say, but if you can find a for free version of it somewhere, then definitely check this movie out. Hey, Blissful, I'm going to go back up here so I don't skip through any of y'all's comments. TJ, you say, oh, Quinn talked briefly about it a few years back. I think sometimes people take their acting as just a job, unlike what fans think about the actors in relation to their movies and characters. Do you know, TJ, I would love to hear him talk just a little bit about it. Do you know where I could find it? Is that easily obtainable, like on YouTube or something? Darky say, hey Dana, I can't remember if I brought this up before, but do you remember Blackout? I think it was an HBO original, but it was really good and had one of the Carradine brothers. Blackout. That sounds so familiar, Dirk, but yeah, I'm not really sure if I have or not. I'll have to look into that though. Dirk, you say I would say it goes in line with these films, so it's probably the one I'm thinking of. TJ, you say, yeah, Dirk, Blackout was an HBO movie starring Keith Carradine that supposedly led to a real life killing inspired by the movie. Oh boy, we could definitely open up a can of worms talking about that. Um, so again, guys, I am not dissecting the entire plot of these movies. The main thing is to focus on the dads, the fathers in these movies for Father's Day. And I'm trying to also not cover exactly the same ones that I covered the last Father's Day stream I did. You could do a little digging and find I think it was from last year, that Father's Day stream. Okay. But like I said, you guys can talk about The Shining, The Stepfather, any of these other movies I'm talking about, even if I go on to the next one. Okay. All right. So the next one is one that I just recently, in the last week or so, got in. And it's a 4K. And this is a movie that I'd always heard of but never watched. And that's The Night of the Hunter, starring Robert Mitchum and Shelley Winters. Whoa, you talk about an amazing film, especially for 1955. This is it. Okay. This is another one that I would highly recommend. If you can find it for free version, go for it. Go for it on that. Yes, Blissful, it is Wendy's lemonade. I got the natural lemonade. I haven't tried the blueberry pomegranate though. But what I was saying earlier is usually I get lemonade from McAllister's, which they have the all-time best, in my opinion, fresh natural lemonade. But then Wendy's runs a very close second to that. So, Night of the Hunter. So Robert Mitchum stars as, I mean, he's supposed to be a preacher. They call him a reverend. Um, Reverend Harry Powell, actually, or Reverend Powell. Um, but you know from the first scene that they show this guy that he's not any count and he's not a good old fashioned preacher. Okay. He's not like Brent Spiner, or what, I may be pronouncing his name wrong again. Um, but you know, he has a lot of people fooled for a long time. He shows up in towns, you know, different little towns and stuff like that, and then he ends up usually killing women and taking their money. So he's basically a murdering gold digger. He's looking for women that have money, or I guess maybe jewelry or something like that, that he can just kill them off and take whatever they have. So he ends up in jail, and there's another guy that's in jail that's scheduled to be hanged. Because, and you kind of feel sorry for this guy. This guy is played by Peter Graves, and he has two children and a wife played by Shelley Winters. And he even says in the movie, he says he got tired of seeing kids go hungry, not just his kids, but any kids. And he got tired of how downtrodden a lot of people had to be. And then other people, it seemed like they just were rolling in money. So I believe he ended up shooting two people and then stealing a bunch of money. So he made it back home and talked to his son, and he said, "Son, I'm going to hide this money and don't tell anybody where it's at. And when the time comes, you know, when I'm gone, um, you guys can get it and live off of it." So while he's in jail waiting to be hanged, he starts talking to Reverend Powell. And Reverend Powell's like, ding, you know, this flash bulb, light bulb goes off in his head. And he's thinking, all right, I needed a victim. I've got a victim. This guy's going to be hanged. And so I'm going to go get his little wifey and figure out where that money is hidden. Okay. So he ends up marrying Shelley Winters' character. The little girl trusts Reverend Powell for a while. Um, But the little boy never does trust him. He knows that there's something wrong with this guy. Something's just not quite right with him. And Reverend Powell knows this, and he, tries to scare the hell out of this little boy. He tries to scare the hell out of the little girl too, wanting them to tell him where the money is hidden. It turns out that the money is hidden in the little girl's doll. And so he ends up like the kids escape, they go out in a boat, and they go out in the water and they're able to get away from him. But he's on a horse and he's following them the whole time. And there are several tense scenes in this movie where you're thinking, oh God, is he going to get him? Oh God, what's he going to do? Um, and Robert Mitchum is really, really good as this very evil reverend and essentially a stepfather to these young children. So, and there is, I don't want to give away a huge scene in the movie, but there is one incredible underwater scene in this that has to be seen to be believed, okay? It's just fantastic, especially for 1955. Just amazing. So, John, you say Robert Mitchum was good at playing menacing roles. Yes, he certainly was. I mean, you can just look that picture there on the back. Look at that. Look at that mug on this guy. I mean, that is amazing. I hope y'all could see that pretty good. Sorry for the glare on there. Um, Darky say, hell yeah, TJ, it's a great film. Sorry I had to grab a bite from my son. No, you got to take care of your kid, Dirk. That's important. Johnny says, Zombie was written before Dawn. Didn't know that. Zombie is good, but Dawn is still an all-time classic. You can bury that film for 300 years and someone can learn from it, assuming we all live that long. Oh, yes. And see, Cape Fear is one of Steve's favorite movies. Dare you say Zombie was written before Dawn was filmed? I believe Dawn was written first, but my point was people give Fulci shit for a ripoff, but that wasn't his intentions. The producers were to blame. Exactly, Dirk. I get it. John, you say, yeah, I mean, I think it's different takes. Zombie is about the zombies. Dawn is more about the people. Both awesome though. Exactly, John. That's perfectly. You put that in the chat perfectly. TJ, you say, yeah, Sacchetti started writing in 78. He wrote it as a classic zombie movie in line with Island of Dr. Moreau. But when it was optioned for film, the studio wanted it to be more like Romero stuff. Dirk, you say, yeah, also zombie has more to do with voodoo. I agree with TJ here too. He says, I hear you, Dirk. Some people throw around the word ripoff too fluidly much of the time. Okay. So again, Night of the Hunter, highly, 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 highly recommended. And by the way, if you are interested in buying it, if you've already seen the movie and you love it already and want to get the 4K and have the ways and means to do so, oh heck, get this Kino Lorber, or not Kino. Yeah, it is Kino Lorber. For saying, I was like, is it Kino Lorber? Yeah, it is. Get this Kino Lorber 4K. It does look amazing. Okay, so again, as I said earlier, none of these are in any particular order. Just pull them off the shelf and made a stack, and I'm just going through these now. So this is one that I did not have a Blu-ray or for a 4K, or I don't even think there's a 4K of it, but I don't have a Blu-ray of it. But I do have a DVD of Pet Cemetery 2. And of course, who I want to talk about in this is Gus. Clancy Brown, eh, Clancy Brown nailed the Gus character. Because if you didn't think he was sadistic, if you thought he was very sadistic alive, when he comes back from the dead, oh, buddy, it he swings back and forth between being hilarious and kind of gross. And what I'm talking about is the dinner scene where food's falling out of his mouth and he's just laughing, and then all of a sudden he goes and looks at the boys, and everybody just kind of like that, because Gus at that point is very unpredictable and they're not sure exactly what he's going to do. So I think without Clancy Brown playing Gus, I don't think it would have worked as well. But the whole scene, I mean, it is a little bit humorous, but it doesn't end very, it doesn't end humorously at all. Is the scene where Gus is trying to run down Drew and his mother, uh, because Drew's not his real son, it's his stepson. And I think this was another case where the father had died and the mother had remarried, and she ended up remarrying Gus. And Gus is very abusive. When he's alive, he's abusive. He kills Drew's dog and says it was an accident, which was that was hard for me to watch, even though I knew they didn't really kill a dog. Um, and then, of course, when he's dead and then comes back, like I said, pretty much that whole dinner sequence where the food's falling out of his mouth and stuff is gross and funny and all that stuff. And then when he's trying to run down Drew's mother with Drew in the car, and he pulls up beside him and he's waving at him and stuff like that. I mean, some people might think that is kind of goofy, but I think it really worked for the film. And I found something inherently creepy in that. Him smiling and waving at them, and there was no way they could get away, and all of that. So, again, if you had had anybody else but Clancy Brown in the role, I don't think it would have worked. And there are still groups of people that don't like Pet Sematary 2. And I'm always partial to the original Pet Sematary. I always will be. But this was an enjoyable little sequel. I mean, you could have done it without having Pet Sematary 2 as the title. I mean, really. Because how many movies have dealt with people coming back to life? Not just zombies, but just in general. So, yeah, definitely, if you've never seen Pet Sematary 2, this is another one that I highly recommend. Find a for free version somewhere and watch this little gem. And, some of you that have never seen it before, I'd love to hear what you think of it after you watch it. All right, so the next one, this dad I'm going to talk about. People might be a little bit on the fence about this, about is he a deadly dad or is he not? Okay. And that is George Lutz from the Amityville Horror. Now, George Lutz, funnily enough, is a real person. Kathy Lutz is a real person. They both passed away now, but So, yes, this movie, The Amityville Horror, it's pretty much a Hollywood movie, a Hollywood representation of what happened to the Lutz family in the house in Amityville, okay? I totally get that. We could have a whole stream just talking about the Amityville Horror and the discrepancies and all the controversy and all of that. But that's not what I'm going to talk about tonight. Tonight, I want to focus on the George Lutz character played by James Brolin in this movie. And there are certain parts in this movie where I'm looking at James Brolin playing this character, and it looks like no one's home. I mean, vacant eyes, um, you know, almost as, not to quote Donald Pleasance really, but like the devil's eyes. Like what you see when you look at murders, um, serial killers, cult leaders like Charles Manson, that soullessness, that emptiness, the cold, dead eyes. That's what I see at certain points in times when I look into George Lutz's eyes, played by James Brolin in this movie. So he was also a stepfather. So Kathy had been married before and she had 3 kids. And so he married her, pretty much adopted her kids and all that. But as time goes on in this movie, and that it's supposed to be the effects of the house, pretty much, that are changing him. But still, like, when you look in somebody's eyes and they're cold and they're dead and they just look at you like they could just go off on you at any time, that's chilling. And I feel like James Brolin did an excellent job with this. Um, the material's not real rich. It's pretty basic material, but I feel like he adds so much to this movie, and strengthens the fabric that makes up the movie. And even though Margot Kerr always said this movie was a piece of shit, I think she definitely adds to it as well. But we're not really talking about the female side of things tonight. We're talking about the dads. Oh, I'm going to read that here in a second, Dirk. Coco, you say, shout out to Clancy Brown, who plays the best dad on TV, Mr. Krabs. There you go, Coco. I hadn't even thought of this one, Dirk, but that's very interesting. What about Hellraiser? Would you consider Frank Come to Daddy? That guy was, yeah, he was sleazy. TJ, you say Clancy was a great dad on Pet Cemetery too. TJ says Frank was a perv, Dirk, not a good papa. LOL. Oh boy. Okay. So that's Amityville Horror. Guys, I am going to step away for a second, and run to the restroom. I am going to remove myself from the stream, so you guys don't have to sit here and look at my empty chair or whatever, or hear sounds like coming from the dogs or whatever. And I will be right back. Actually, Coco, I don't smoke. Don't even smoke weed. Don't smoke cigarettes. Don't smoke weed. But to each his own. If you do that, that is, if anybody does that, those things, that's fine with me. All right. So moving on is Grandpa from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay. So over the years, and I wasn't the first time I saw, or maybe the first couple of times I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I kind of thought that Drayton was the dad. Drayton was Leatherface's dad and was Hitchhiker's dad. But as time went on, we began to realize, right, that Grandpa was the dad. And there was a grandma because we see her up in the attic, her corpse up in the attic, rather. And you were kidding, Coco. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I don't mind. Um, so Grandpa would definitely, I didn't think about that at first, but then when I was looking at lists of things, I was like, oh, heck yeah. Grandpa in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he's the guy that created all these crazies. And he was evidently crazy too. We don't really, as far as Toby Hooper telling the story, we don't really know about Grandma. But if she was married to Grandpa, she must have had a few screws loose as well. So when you think about it, Drayton and the Hitchhiker and Leatherface were the products of these two, I guess, degenerate crazies that spawned more degenerate crazies. Who, now the Hitchhiker, no, he couldn't put on a facade, I don't think, and neither could Leatherface. But Drayton, he was able to, work at a gas station, do his barbecue, all of that, and appeared at first to be relatively normal. But Drayton swings back and forth between being batshit crazy and being semi-normal. So, but Leatherface is obviously not all there. The Hitchhiker's not all there. They're both crazy. Um, and Grandpa is crazy too, as evident by the dinner scene. And they bring Grandpa down, and Grandpa pretty much looks like a corpse. And they're like, Grandpa, we're gonna let you have this one. And he's sucking on Marilyn Burns's finger, Sally's finger, and he's doing the whole thing like he's a baby. And it's so weird and so twisted and all of that. So we definitely got to have Grandpa from TCM on here. There's no two ways about it. And I don't know. I could go on and on about Grandpa, but I won't. Um, but talk about crazy families. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre definitely has one of the more crazy families in horror history, in my opinion. Dirk says, "Yeah, Frank was a real SOB, John." Yeah, Dirk. The cook did have a good side. Did have a good side. Coco, you say, I think Leatherface worked on Wall Street but had a nervous breakdown, moved back home. Shit happened. Hey, Undead of Night, you say, hi, Dana in chat. First live stream for me. Caught the 500 subscriber bid and enjoyed it. Good one tonight also. Well, thank you, sir. Or if you're not a sir, I'm sorry. But I just figured from the name that you would be a sir. So correct me if I'm wrong on that, Undead of Night. Okay. So, again, I didn't intend to go on too awfully long with any one of these movies because I did have 12 of them to cover. So the next one might be a little controversial for a lot of you guys. And by little controversial, I mean because I picked this one for a deadly dad. And that is the dad, Mr. Meeks, in Frailty. And again, I don't know how many of you guys and gals in here have seen this. This is an amazing and creepy movie starring Bill Paxton and Matthew McConaughey. And there's a lot of different layers to this movie. I am not kidding. And I was trying. It seems similar to. It seems similar to some of the themes that were in. Was it Lizzie's story? I don't know how many of you guys read Lizzie's story or saw the show that was on. But some of the themes about the father and his mental issues in Lizzie's story and what he did to his children seems very similar to how Bill Paxton treats his older son in Frailty. So basically what you have, I'm going to go over this one a little bit more because like I said, I don't know how many of you have seen it. I know Dirk has, because he says, hell yeah, Dana, great pick. Frailty is amazing. And you are a sir. Okay, great. So the reveal is gold, Dirk. And I'm not going to give away that reveal because, like I said, if you had not seen this movie, oh man, I just kind of, this is kind of a blind buy for me. This is a 2002 release. Yeah, okay, so let's just get into it a little bit. So, a little bit of a plot synopsis. So, years after terrorizing a small Texas community, the God's Hand killer has returned, leaving in his wake a perplexing trail of fear and death. Convinced that he knows the killer's identity, Fenton Meeks shows up at FBI headquarters intent on putting an end to the murderous rampage and relieving his conscience of his family's sinister secrets. But all is not as cut and dried in this film as it seems from that plot synopsis. So this goes back and forth in time. It goes from the present to the past quite a bit. And Matthew McConaughey plays the brother that shows up at FBI headquarters and says that who knows who the God's Hand killer is and all that. And also, he tells the story of his father and him and his brother. And the dad is played by Bill Paxton. This is, man, when I think about movies like this, it's a shame that Bill Paxton passed away so young, really. But when I really miss Bill Paxton is when I watch movies like this. Because this just shows what great range he had, what a fantastic actor he was, and all of that. So, Bill Paxton plays the father to two sons. Again, The wife, I believe, was ill and passed away. And so he's trying to raise his boys up the best way he knows how. And it starts out, he's a really loving, caring father. Him and his boys, you know, eat meals together, watching TV at night, and there's a really good relationship between the three of them. And then one day the father comes home and insists that God has given him the ability to tell which people are demons, and that it's his job, God says, to destroy these demons. And so the older son thinks, "Oh God, well, Dad's flipped his wig here," you know. But the younger son is, "Yes, Dad. Yes, Dad. I believe you, Dad." Um, the older boy is like, "I can't kill these people, Dad. I can't help you kill these people." And so, in response to that, the father starts being really hard on the older boy, making him do hard labor, punishing him by making him dig this big hole until he's got bloody blisters and stuff. And then you see the father showing a little bit of kindness by dressing his wounds when he gets the blisters. But then again, as time goes on, he throws him in like a cellar and leaves him there, and won't let him, get out and take a shower. And it's just um, pretty much excruciating to watch. And you could look at it one of two ways. You could look at it as Bill Paxton's character has lost his mind, or you can look at it that, oh, yeah, these people really are demons. Okay. So I think a lot of this movie is up to interpretation. I can see it from both sides. Now, I will say when I originally watched it, I was pretty well convinced that these people were demons. And, I know that, we're supposedly seeing flashbacks of like the old man that he kills. Um, he was supposed to, I think, maybe was molesting and then killing kids. And you see a flashback of the old man luring some child into his car. Um, so based on that, and they could be fooling this, it's a movie, but I'm just saying, based on that, it showed several different flashbacks. And then the ending kind of reinforces that as well. And I'm not going to give it away because there may be several of you that have not seen it. But so you could see Bill Paxton's character of the father in two ways. And it is a duality to this role anyway, because when we first see him, he is being a proper father to his kids and taking care of them the way that he should. And then once he has this vision or whatever, things change. And he seems to sink further and further into insanity, is what it seems on the surface. So you could look at him as a loving father who lost his mind and became deranged somewhere along the way. Um, I would actually rather look at it that way than to look at it as, oh, yeah, these people are demons because of the way that he treats his son. I wouldn't want to think that any normal uh, person would do that to their child. So that's dark, that's scary, as well. Let's see. John, you said Love Frailty, so awesome. I periodically like to go back and watch this movie, just like Stir of Echoes. That's another one I like to watch a few times a year, actually. Darky said, I guess Frankenstein could be considered a Father's Day movie as well. Yeah, actually, Dirk, I don't have it in my group, but I did see that one on the list or one of the lists. Um, yeah, John, it's really a mind fuck of a movie. Exactly. Exactly, Dirk. You say, oh, snap, just thought about the fun house. That was another one I didn't think of. Yeah, there are so many that somebody could talk about, really. But I highly recommend Frailty if you haven't seen it. So the next one is Stephen King's It. And you could include, this is the mini series with Tim Curry as Pennywise. But you could also include the remake, which was a very good remake, in my opinion. Um, so the person that I want to talk about, the father I want to talk about here, is Al or Alvin Marsh, Beverly Marsh's father, because he's very abusive to Beverly. So he's definitely, I don't know if he'd be considered deadly, but you definitely know that there's abuse going on. And that when you look at Al Marsh, you see those cold eyes. Maybe they're not dead, but they're very, very cold in this movie. As if he's forgotten how to ever love anyone. And he's an alcoholic as well. But, I know some people do get mean when they drink, some people don't. But I always felt with Al Marsh, there was something else that was going on there, maybe some mental health issues as well. But you always see, he always seems so menacing, even without doing anything. You see him smack Beverly. You see him tear up a postcard that she got, that we find out's from Ben. Um, because Ben was always in love with Beverly, even from the time they were kids. Um, and when Al is tearing up the postcard, he has a look on his face that said, I'm coming for you next, girlie. I'm tearing this up and then I'm going to tear you up. There's another scene where um, she screams no at her father and says, what did you say? And she said, I said no. And he comes after her and comes really close to grabbing a hold of her. And then she's able to get outside of the house and he stops because he's got enough sense to know that if anybody in town sees him running out after his daughter, if any harm comes to her, his ass is going to be in a sling. And he's cognizant enough to know that. Um, Undead of Night, you say, this has to be Beverly's Day, a real work of art. Durkee said, which do you prefer, Dana? Tim Curry's or Bill Skarsgård Pennywise? I like what Bill Skarsgård did with the role, but I'm an old school gal with this. I prefer Tim Curry. I prefer the way he played it. And in a lot of ways, I feel like Tim Curry was scarier than Bill Skarsgård because not because of what the makeup was, what the clown itself was, but in Tim Curry's case, what was behind the clown makeup. That's what was frightening. And Tim Curry had that down pat. And that is why I would prefer Tim Curry. Now, I'm not saying I don't like the It remake, that I don't like Bill Skarsgård's performance of uh, being Pennywise. I just, if ask me which one I prefer, it's Tim Curry's version. So that is it's not it yet, but this is the movie yet. And let's see. We'll go ahead and move on. We've got three more to cover before I'm going to get off of here. And here's a fun one, guys. Because we determined that they're brother and sister, but they call each other mommy and daddy. And that is, of course, Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs. And we're talking about Everett McGill's portrayal of Daddy in the movie. Oh my God. Got to be one of the most sadistic characters in cinematic history, okay? Because you have this couple, brother and sister, acting as a couple, which makes it even more twisted, who have been abducting kids and pretty much keeping them in the walls of their big old house. And then there's one girl, I figured they abducted her too, but perhaps maybe the brother and sister had sex and she was the product of it. I can't really remember. If anybody else remembers, about the girl who plays their so-called daughter, feel free to let us know in the chat. So, yeah, Everett McGill, I mean, he is another excellent actor. And he really had this raw, crazy, abusive uh, character down pat. I mean, I've seen Everett McGill play good characters like he did in Twin Peaks. I've seen him play a character in Silver Bullet who you feel like he starts out good and becomes evil or more evil as the werewolf part of him takes over more and more. So he just, he pulls out all the stops, like I've said about some of these other guys. He pulls out all the stops here. He's not afraid of being crazy on the film, and it shows. It definitely shows. And I don't know how long it's been since my mom has seen this one, but she always loved this movie. Yep, exactly, Undead. I'm like, you say he played another evil father, a priest in Silver Bullet. Dark, you say, yeah, same here, Tim Curry. Okay, so a little bit of a plot synopsis for this one because I feel like this one's pretty well known, but there might be a percentage of people that have not seen it. So, Wes Craven, the director of A Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream, takes you on a terrifying journey inside the most demented house on the street. Trapped inside a fortified home owned by a mysterious couple, a young boy is suddenly thrust into a nightmare. The boy quickly learns the true nature of the house's homicidal inhabitants and the secret creatures hidden deep within the house. Starring Everett McGill, Twin Peaks and Dune, Wendy Roby, Twin Peaks, Brandon Adams, The Mighty Ducks, Ving Rhames, Piranha 3D, Mission Impossible, AJ Langer, Escape from LA, and Sean Whalen, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 and Hatchet 3. The people under the stairs will grab you when you least expect it and never let go. I think this is a really good Wes Craven movie, too. This was one that I didn't appreciate the first time around, but this is a movie that has grown on me. And again, this movie shows what great range Everett McGill has, how he can turn on the crazy when it's fully warranted and kind of just run with it. Because I think that's exactly what he did with this character. So, again, Wes Craven's People Under the Stairs, highly recommend it. So, we're down to the final two, guys. So, well, no, actually, final three, because there's one that I don't have a visual for. Okay. So, Creep Show. Who am I going to talk about with this? Of course, Nathan Grantham. And the episode is called Father's Day. So, I was looking at the dogs. I thought I heard something. Anyway, Nathan Grantham is an evil old bastard. And he was always jealous of his daughter, Bedelia. He called her a bitch. We have flashbacks that show on Father's Day her making him this really nice cake. And he's screaming, Bedelia, I want my cake, you bitch, you dirty bitch. And he said, you're all a bunch of vultures waiting to get your hands on my money. So he's a really, like I said, evil guy. No good in this guy at all. So he had Bedelia's fiance killed. And of course, Bedelia has never forgiven him for it. Nor did she back then. And he caused her to lose her mind with all that screaming, calling her a bitch and everything. That she takes a marble ashtray and bashes her father upside the head. But Nathan refuses to stay dead. I mean, this is Creep Show. This is like an EC Comics type of thing. So you're going to have the dead coming back to life, right? So Nathan Grantham ends up coming out of the grave, and he's got some special powers to make gravestones fall on people's heads. And he can also twist people's heads off and make a nice Father's Day cake for himself. And the final scene of this segment of Creep Show, when he busts through the doors and Richard and Cass, the only two family members left, are just like this. And he says, it's Father's Day and I finally got my cake. And Aunt Sylvia, who you can see there, becomes Nathan Grantham's Father's Day cake in that segment. So, another really great, I mean, this is one of those great horror anthology movies. It's very classic. George Romero, Stephen King collaboration. So, you can't go wrong with this one. Again, if you don't own it already, try to find a for free version. That if you've never seen it, I highly, highly recommend it. Yes, very good point, Undead of Night. A second dad option in Creepshow could be Tom Atkins' character. Not evil, but not too kind to his kid either. Creepshow was one of my favorites. Mine too, Undead of Night. Okay. So the one I want to talk about next is the one I don't have a visual for, but it is a David Lynch movie. And I have seen it. It's been a while, but I am, of course, talking about the character of Henry Spencer in Eraserhead. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen Eraserhead, but that film is amazing. I don't know why the hell I don't own a copy of it in some way, shape, or form. But I do not. But I'm going to have to remedy that. And if it's David Lynch, you know it's going to be odd, okay, and bizarre and all that. So, Henry Spencer is played by Jack Nance, who ended up playing a character in Twin Peaks, which was also a David Lynch show. Okay. So this is a very bizarre movie, kind of similar with the mutant or mutated baby um to oh my gosh, what is the name of that movie that this is similar to? Oh my gosh, Combat Shock. And that could be another dad related film as well. Combat Shock could have. Oh, Lordy Dirt. Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. You say Eraserhead is awesome, almost as good as Hereditary. Oh, man. John, you say, haha, Eraserhead and that damn dancing lady. Can't unsee that. I can't unsee that baby in that movie either, or unhear the wailing cries that come from the baby. Um, so for whatever reason, Henry is left alone with his mutated, deformed child, baby. And even though you know this is not a real child and all that, the way he treats it as it seems as if his mind is really degenerating. And the imagery for this movie is just bizarre anyway. And so the whole thing seems off kilter from the first scene. But I still would recommend it. But watch it when you're having a really good day, because this movie can be dark and depressing. And again, the way Henry treats his child towards the end of the movie, oh man, it is hard, very hard to watch. So, um, I'll just say this: if you're a fan of David Lynch's work, you're in a great mood, then I'd say, yeah, try to find a for free version of this. For some reason, I'm thinking Criterion put out a version of it, but I could be wrong. Coco, you say I still haven't watched that movie all the way through. I've been trying since like 94. Exactly, Texas, in heaven. Um, Dirk, you mentioned Dr. John Collingwood from Last House on the Left. Now, I guess in some sense of the word, he could be a deadly dad. But I was kind of trying, I'm glad you brought it up, but I'm myself, I was kind of trying in this stream to cover like evil dads. But he definitely can be considered a deadly dad with the way he dispatches the people that raped and murdered his daughter. Exactly. In heaven, everything is fine. Exactly. Um, you say, oh, okay. You say yes, they did. Cool. All right. So moving on to the final movie of tonight is another Wes Craven movie, and I bet you guys know which one I'm going to cover, or you probably got a pretty good idea. And the character I'm talking about is Papa Jupiter from The Hills Have Eyes. Papa Jupiter is one insane SOB. He's and evil too, in my opinion. And if you don't believe me, if you have not seen The Hills Have Eyes, try to find a for free version first, guys. But then you are in for one hell of a ride. Okay. And if you've seen the remake, and I'm not saying the remake's horrible, but if you have seen the remake and you think that you know what this is going to be like, no. This is going to be something different, completely different. Okay. And in so many ways. So, um, in case there are some of you in here or some of you that watch this later that haven't ever seen Hills Have Eyes, let's go over a plot synopsis. So, horror master Wes Craven achieved critical and commercial success with the likes of Scream and Nightmare on Elm Street. But for many genre fans, the director's seminal 1977 effort, The Hills Have Eyes, remains his masterpiece. Taking an ill-advised detour en route to California, the Carter family soon run into trouble when the RV breaks down in the middle of the desert. Stranded, the family find themselves at the mercy of a group of monstrous cannibals lurking in the surrounding hills. With their lives under threat, the Carters have no choice but to fight back by any means necessary. Following on from his notorious 1972 directorial debut, The Last House on the Left, Wes Craven's The Hills Have Eyes stands alongside the likes of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Night of the Living Dead as one of the defining classics of American horror. Okay. And I did end up, or actually, Steve got me a few Christmases ago the Arrow version of The Hills Have Eyes. And I just, I really like the packaging on these. Last House on the Left is like this as well. Dirk, you say, love Hills Have Eyes, another great Craven film. I agree. Prefer the original for sure. Okay. So, again, if you think you've got a handle too on the Papa Jupiter character or Papa Jupe, as they call him sometimes in the movie, um, I guess he has to be absolutely the craziest of all the cannibal family. Michael Berryman, of course, is in this. You can see his face there. And Michael Berryman does an amazing job with this. And Michael Berryman, I mean, for the sweet guy that he is, really can turn on menacing for a lot of these movies that he was in. And again, that is a mark of an amazing actor because I met Michael Berryman a year or so ago, and he was so sweet. You never dream he would play some of these characters he plays. Hey, Wes, you say, hey, Dana, I have the 4K limited edition of Hills Have Eyes. I would like to have that, but unfortunately, I do not. I do not at this point in time. Just got the Blu ray. So, have you watched the 4K of Hills Have Eyes? Does it look really good? Okay. So, guys and gals, that concludes, and I only went on for 2 hours tonight. Um, and Dirk says, me too, CK didn't make a difference. Oh, okay. Well, I guess that answers that one. But this concludes Deadly Dads, the Father's Day special. I may try to do one where we talk about good dads in horror movies because I do have another list. Stephen Freeling from Poltergeist. Some of you may think, oh God, Dana, no, he wasn't a good dad. I'm not talking about Stephen Freeling, but Lieutenant Donald Thompson from Nightmare on Elm Street and Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Um, John Collingwood from Last House on the Left, Louis Creed from Pet Cemetery, Robert Thorne from The Omen, and Martin Brody uh, from Jaws. So, not as many there, but I would really like to cover that at some point in time to talk about. We talked about the baddies uh, in horror films. Now let's talk about some good dads. So I'm going to try to make time to do that one. Um, and I really hate to go. It's a shame. We've still got 12 people in here. However, I didn't even know if I was going to be able to do the stream, not because I was sick or anything, but because um, I had to take uh, an anxiety pill earlier, and I always forget that I'm on a higher dosage now. And so that thing made me almost wiped out. And I was like, oh man, I really want to do a stream tonight, but damn, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it or not. So I'm starting to kind of zone out again. So I want to get off of here before I like go to sleep on you guys or whatever. But I want to thank everybody for being in here tonight. This has been fun. I love to have people on here to like to interact with live and bounce things off of, but I know that that's not always possible. People aren't always able to come on, and that's okay. Also want to remind everybody that tomorrow night, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time, will be my final drive-in movie night for a while until the last drive-in goes on hiatus and or a vacation again. And we will be covering or it'll be Cannibal Night, and we will be watching Cannibal Ferox and Cannibal Holocaust. Thank you, Blissful. Blissful says another great live, Dana. So, with all that being said, I am going to skedaddle on out of here for the night, and I will see everyone on the flip side. Y'all have a good night now. Oh, and by the way, thank you, Undead of Night. You say a great selection of movies and fun conversations. Thanks for the welcome, and I'll be back again. Cheers, all, Tom. And I'll try to remember to call you Tom next time. So, good night, guys. See y'all next time.